Okay, great. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's really good. We've got wonderful, great support workers or change makers, as we call it, from around the country with us. We know we've only got a small group here with us now, and we always say that's the reality of being a support worker. Support workers often aren't in control of their diaries, so they want to be somewhere and suddenly have to be somewhere else. So we know that it might be a small group here, but this video is going to be heard by hundreds of support workers across the country. And we're incredibly grateful to Kate and Victoria from Gig Buddies and Stay Up Late for joining us today. I'm Sally, and we at Paradigm run the Gr8 Support Movement. And if you don't know, most people do know, but the Gr8 Support Movement's founded by Paradigm, and its whole desire, basically, what we want to do is connect support workers across the country to be the best they can be, to ensure that people, particularly those with learning difficulties, get great support to live really good, ordinary lives. We started the movement by asking people and families, their families, what great support meant, and these are the 8 characteristics that we created or distilled from what they told us, and we were told so much by 350 plus people. Today, really focusing on adventuring. So, you know, might be the first thing, but it was absolutely what hundreds of people said they wanted. They want support workers who are going to help them discover what life looks like, to adventure, to try new things, to do a few risky things and stuff. And so for many, as you can imagine, that can provide a bit of a challenge. Yeah? Well, we thought, who else to ask other than Gig Buddies and Stay Up Late? If you want to get into trouble, ask them. If you want to adventure, ask them. If you want to do things that other people might go, no way, ask them. So we have asked them, and we are really glad that we have got Victoria, who has red hair in the picture. Victoria, you don't know now, and Kate from Gig Buddies to just have a chat with us online. So for the next 20 minutes or so, Kate and Victoria will guide us through some of your thinking experiences. We'll get a chance to ask questions at the end. So I'm going to shut up for a change and hand over to Kate and Victoria with a massive thank you for being with us. Just tell me when to move the slides on, okay? We're ready. Go.
Okay. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Sally, and thank you to the Gr8 Support Movement for inviting us to talk today. We hope that it's informative and fun and provides the discussion that you're hoping for. Would you like to introduce yourself first? Okay, yeah, go for it.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I work for Stay Up Late and we work at Gig Buddies as well.
Great. And I'm Kate, and I'm a project manager for Gig Buddies. So I work with Victoria to run the Gig Buddies project, which, if you don't know, was founded by the charity Stay Up Late. So I'll just tell you a really quick introduction about Stay Up Late, so you know where we're coming from. So Stay Up Late was started just over 10 years ago by the band Heavy Load, who were a punk band who happened to have 3 members who had learning disabilities, mainly because their Gr8 support workers said to them, what do you want to do with your music? And Jimmy, one of the members of the Housing Association, Southdown, said, I want to be in a band. So they started a band. Heavy Load did lots of gigs around the UK, mainly at day centres for people with learning disabilities, and lots of their fans were leaving before the end of the gig, and they thought, it can't be our music. If Paul was here, he would be saying this, it's not our music, so why are people leaving before the end? And the majority of people were saying it was because their support workers finished at 10 o'clock, so they had to leave at 9. So they weren't able to stay to the end of the gig. Sadly, 10 years later, most of you probably have this experience that if you work for an organisation, inflexible support is still something that happens. If you're lucky, like me, I'm a support worker for someone at their home, so they choose their hours, and it doesn't matter what time we finish, we can stay out late. But for people that work within organisations, if they've got an inflexible rota, they might have to finish at 9 because they're starting at 9 o'clock the next day. So this is not in any way aimed at bad-mouthing support workers. We know it's usually the systems that are in place that are stopping people being able to stay up late. So that's why Stay Up Late was born 10 years ago. And what we think might be the answer to the problem is the Gig Buddies project, which is what Victoria and I work on. The Gig Buddies project is about matching people up with learning disabilities to a volunteer who likes the same kind of music as them, or it doesn't have to be music, but a lot of people get matched with music, to go out and have fun in their community and stay up late. It's that simple. But going back to the slide that you can see on the screen, sorry, the first slide.
Okay.
going back
would
to
happen.
that's the one, yeah. She's just testing us. This is a slide at a conference that we ran for people with learning disabilities in Chester just over a year ago. Victoria is going to talk a bit about what the conference is all about. Go ahead. We'll go back to that one, I think. So do you want to talk about the conference?
The conference, how people with learning disabilities spent their time. 75 of people wanted ordinary things, so going to the pub, going bowling, watching a movie. Mostly they just wanted to socialise, but they couldn't do that.
Great. So the 75% of the people at the conference just wanted to do ordinary things with their spare time, but they said there were a lot of barriers stopping them from doing that. So on the slide, you can see a wall in the background behind Victoria with her pink hair.
Yeah.
And that is all the barriers that were stopping people going out in the evening. So we thought we'd spend the day trying to figure out how to knock down that wall. And that's what the conference was all about. So why weren't things happening for people with learning disabilities? Amongst some of the things that we've already talked about, one of the things that came up was not having support in the evening. So if somebody does have that support, like many of you guys might be able to do that, there's other things that getting in the way of that. And one of those things was the risk. You may have read or heard about a book by Alex Fox that came out last year. For those who are listening, you can't see what we're pointing at. The book is A New Healthcare System, Escaping the Invisible Asylum. What Alex asks is whether risk assessments are ever about the individual, or are they really always about protecting the organisation? So at Stay Up Late and at Gig Buddies, our focus is on managing risks and considering the risk of not doing something, and thinking about the wider impact of someone's long-term health if they're not having a great social life, rather than the risk of doing things. So going back to our conference, the things that people were saying that they wanted to do were things like going to the movies, going to football matches, going to the pub until the end, when the pub closed at 11 o'clock. Nothing that outrageous. And we think you guys,
I'm talking about you guys.
you guys are as your top quality for great support. So we're pretty sure that you probably agree and do all these things already. So Victoria, what do you want to say about that?
About being adventurous.
Yeah.
You just have to do it every day. Get out there and do it.
What do you think is stopping people being adventurous?
Probably independence, money. Money can be the problem. And I would say independence because they might not be confident enough to actually go beyond that point where they'll get really scared, probably. And I would say probably sometimes risk assessments have to be put in when you go to places.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So why don't we move to the next slide, please, Sally? So, as Victoria said, there are some barriers stopping people going out in the evening. Before we launched the Gig Buddies project, Stay Up Late commissioned some research by Gr8 University, who went out and asked people with learning disabilities, what are the barriers to you being involved in your community life? And part of it was lack of support, but another thing was community safety, and in particular perceived risks that people thought, perceived safety risks. Things like transport issues, and so it might be that a bus stops after 8:30 in their local area if they're in a harder to reach area, or having low confidence if they haven't tried something before, which then makes a lack of motivation to go in the first place. Having no one to go with or not knowing what's on. So part of Gig Buddies' role is to help people get over these barriers and be more involved in their community. The majority of participants who sign up for Gig Buddies say that they rarely go out after 9 o'clock with their friends. So we wanted to try and stop that from happening. So we're going to talk about a person-centered approach to managing risk, starting with asking an individual what they already know about taking risks and building up on that. And it's really important that when we have those conversations, we're involving their family, their carers, support workers, or friends to help develop independence in that way. So if we could move on to the next slide, please, Sally. And this is a bit of research that Set Lake inspired. We didn't do this research. It was done in Calderdale, Herefordshire. They decided to do an audit on their own residential homes. They found that out of 136 people in 21 residential units, 69% were engaged in bedtime activity. Now that might not, that's not as fun as it sounds. And only 7% had actually gone out. And this was on a Saturday night. Mencap said that 1 in 3 young people spend less than 1 hour out of their house on a Saturday. And we did our own survey based on this, which we found out that 71% of people don't get out in the evening. And the Learning Disability Coalition found out that 50% of people spend most time at home. So, why is this happening? Hopefully we're starting to answer some of these questions with the stuff that we've been talking about. But we're talking about the Gig Buddies project. We're going to talk about how we're trying to overcome some of these things. So, if we go to the next slide, please, Sally.
That's Morris saying hello. Okay.
So, on the screen, you will see a standard-looking risk assessment that gets used all over the place. Now, I Googled the meaning of risk in order to prepare for today's webinar. Would you like to read out, Victoria, what it says a risk is?
A situation involving exposure to danger.
So I thought that was quite interesting. A situation involving exposure to danger. It doesn't actually say that that anything is going to actually happen.
No.
And under that it says possibility, chance, likelihood. So it's all kind of perceived risk. And I think that's a really important thing to focus on when we're talking about the risk assessment. So Victoria, we've had chats before about the term risk assessment.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody how you feel about the term risk assessment?
I firstly do not like the name risk assessment. I think it sounds really, really, really bad. I don't like it personally. I find like you can have good risk assessments where it's just about, is this person going to be in danger or anything, or anything's going to happen, and then there's like the bad side of risk assessment. And the other side I don't like it is like, you don't know if you've had that risk assessment. Only if you ask the support worker or the manager and say about a risk assessment, you would have no idea. So I think when it comes to risk assessments, that everybody, even support workers and anybody we're targeting it at, that everybody should be involved in a risk assessment and understanding what a risk assessment is and why we do it for.
Thank you for that. I found that quite interesting. That you felt like actually it doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems a bit pointless if you're not involved in your own risk assessment. And also they're not very accessible if you look at things like this. So one of the first things we decided to do was try and make risk assessments more person-centred and less inaccessible, such as this. I will point out at this point that we are aware that organisations have legal obligations to make a risk assessment, and we do have a duty of care, and it will be based on the individual. And some people will not have the capacity to be able to be majorly involved in their own risk assessment. They might need support to help them do that. So we are aware of that. But the people that we get coming to Gig Buddies referred to us and people that want to get out and want to take risks. So we start by saying, well, what do they already know? So if we could go to the next slide, please, Sally. So this is how we start what we call staying safe when out with your gig buddy. And you can put the person's name, the volunteer, and the participant, who would be a person with a learning disability. The first thing we say is, let's think about scenarios that might happen on a night out. So making sure you don't lose each other. So we would say to the gig buddies, what would you do if you lost your volunteer on a night out? And then we've got on the screen possible answers. So we'd be looking for them to say things like, oh, well, we would agree on a place to meet in the venue in case we did lose each other. Or we'd call each other on our mobile. Or we'd inform each other if we were going to leave the venue. Or we'd ask the staff in the venue for support to look for our gig buddies. Or we'd call an emergency contact. And by this way, we're sort of building up a picture of how much risk management they can do by themselves. So I'll give you an example with Victoria, if that's okay with you, Victoria.
Yeah.
Victoria has worked for Stay Up Late for 2 years now, and is supported by WorkAid to apply for a job with us. But Victoria's hometown is an hour from where we work. Victoria lives in Bognor, and our offices are based in Brighton. A lot of our work is done in the evening because, of course, when you work to Stay Up Late, there's not many early nights. So we wanted to make sure that it was still accessible for Victoria to work for us, even though she lives an hour away from where most of our socials are happening. So do you want to talk about how you were supported to attend evening events and work and socials to start with?
So I had my support workers to go with me because the travel was very long. I would get really scared what would happen if I missed the last train, if I got stranded, or like danger stranger, I always call it. Like really everything you can think about what could be dangerous on a night out, like especially with public transport, that last train, if you miss that last train, you're screwed until the next morning. So I talked to staff and managers, and with work, and we worked as a team to try and get down to what the risks were and what was getting in the way of not going to socials, and we wanted to make them to be more confident and to more take the risk factor. Yeah. And I did it for, is it a year and a half I did it with my sport?
About a year, I think.
Yeah, so my sport used to come with me to basically to socials, and then they would help me get the train home and make sure that I was in my flat safely. So, and that made me feel more confident. And then in the end, a year and a half ago now, I don't have my support workers anymore because I'm more confident to sort myself out. I call it the Victoria's backup plan and her own risk assessment, where I have a plan. So it's like I have no support. I have to make sure that I've sorted out my travel and about not getting too drunk. So how I would go through this would be, like, I know I haven't got any support, I'm alright, I've got their number in case anything happens, but it's not 24-hour support, so it would be my mum or my boss Kate or my mum, so I can get hold of them. Then travel, I have an app on my phone with Southern to make sure that if there was any delays, cancellations and stuff, that I can still get home, and if there was a problem, I would tell the people that I'm in contact, like, what the problem was. Then about getting drunk, like I like saying, is like, you don't want to get too drunk that you can't walk to the train station. So, and like the things I always say, when you're travelling, you can't drink too much because you still need to stay focused, like, because from like Brighton to Bognor, you have to change at one stop, so you have to be able to get off that train and then walking home. So like, as well, I carry a police alarm in my bag as well. So when I do like late shifts and stuff, I have my police alarm, and I carry a power battery on me for my phone, so I make sure my phone's never dead. And I always text Kate or my mum to make sure, like, I will say I'm on the train now, and then I will say I've just got home, so they know I'm safe and they don't have to worry.
That's just amazing. It's amazing, Victoria. And what I heard you say there really is that, you know, the supporters you had listened to the type of support you need. They offered it, but then they kept watching and getting to know you better and gradually withdrew. And so they saw your independence increase. And it sounds like you're doing all the brilliant stuff that all of us should do if we were sensible enough to do it. When we go out, I never remember my charger for my phone. I'm always dying. So, but really, that's really helpful, isn't it? And that's part of great support, is knowing when to back off, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Sally. That's exactly it. I think Victoria, what she's proven is that actually she's now able to attend more things, have more opportunities, be more involved in Gig Buddies. But the story that she was just telling is more about then having the opportunity to do stuff in her personal time as well. Yep. So do you want to talk about that, Victoria? A little bit extra? Yeah, she's just written me a little note. Yeah.
Oh, good on you, Victoria. Keep Kate in control.
So I do have a boyfriend, you know, not so safe name, not our safe name, but I do have a boyfriend. He lives in Brighton, and without my support workers, I wouldn't have created that relationship with my boyfriend, because he lives in Brighton, I live in Bognor, so there is that distance and still that risk. But because of my support help, I managed to do stuff with my boyfriends, like in Brighton, and still making sure to get home as well. Or like, if I couldn't get home, I know I can stay at my boyfriend's, but I would still let support know. But like, if it wasn't for my support, I wouldn't have the relationship I have now with my boyfriend.
Great. Yay.
Yay. Thank you. And building on that, we've started to put some guides that are on the Stay Up Late website that you can download. The Stay Up Late guides to alcohol, sex and relationships, and going out at night. And they're written with scenario-based cartoons done by an amazing artist who happens to have autism. And we've written scenarios based on when things do go wrong and learning from them, because that's one thing we wanted to say today is sometimes things go wrong. We can have all the best planning in the world. You know, Victoria plans really well, as you can see, but sometimes the trains get cancelled. Or sometimes...
You know it, mate. I do not like when my trains are cancelled.
So, you know, we make sure that we don't aim for the last train, so that if the train gets cancelled, there's always a backup one. But the guides are quite fun ways of talking to people about risk, rather than just doing a risk assessment. We talk about, and we do that in the Gig Buddies training as well, talk about what are the scenarios and how not to panic.
No, it's don't panic.
Don't panic.
That's brilliant. We'll load those on the Gr8 Support Resource Bank as well. So we'll go to your website and share them with members. Thank you.
That would be great. That would be great. Thanks, Kate. I just want to say, because we've looked and looked at and read those guides, and I just wanted to ask if you were happy for us to, you know, to share that and use those. Yeah.
Do. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Please use them, and if you've got any ideas for more, let us know.
Right. Thank you. Thanks very much for that.
Oh, that's okay. Sally, if you could move on to the next slide, please. Which is just to say that Gig Buddies, when we started Gig Buddies in Brighton, we sort of assumed that it would be happening in other places in the country. Then found out it actually wasn't, but people thought it was a very simple idea that could be replicated in their own towns. So this is a very rough guide of where Gig Buddies exists in the UK and beyond at the moment. So we have 13 different sites around England and Wales and now Scotland and Sydney, Australia, where Gig Buddies is happening. And for those of you that have joined us from Yorkshire, we've got Gig Buddies in Calderdale at the moment.
Yes, we saw that. Yeah.
And Bradford is coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sheffield, not far behind, and Hull has just been announced.
Yeah, so that. Yeah.
It might well be that there'll be a Gig Buddies near you that the people that you're supporting can access, but they can also have unpaid relationships in their life and become, have more opportunities to do things. As we said at the beginning, most of the stuff that came out of the conference in Chester was people just wanting to do ordinary things like go to the pub, go to a football match or the cinema. We're not suggesting that anything is that outrageous. But as we're talking about being adventurous today, we also wanted to touch on how far you can take it with people and sort of getting people out of their comfort zone. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Sally. This is a picture of two of our Gig Buddies, Andrew and Tom, being supported by Holly and Harry at Gig Buddies to go to a festival. This is Latitude last summer. And they're on an accessible platform at the comedy stage, although this is way later than that when all the live acts were finished. And it was Guilty Pleasures disco that went on till 3 in the morning. As you can see, they're having quite a good time, I think. And what I quite like about this is Harry and Holly are sort of there in the background, but the guys are up front, up centre stage. They actually, even after this photo was taken, were pulling people out of the crowd over the barrier to join them on the accessible platform. It's not risk assessed for that. We started to do what we call a dynamic risk assessment, and I'm pretty sure that as Gr8 support workers, you're probably doing this all the time, even without thinking about it. If you've not heard the term before, it's something that even councils are doing. I spoke to Brighton Council about it, and they use this with their staff that are working out in the community, especially lone workers or people that are working in the antisocial behaviour team, but also support workers are doing this. It's when you train your team to think on the spot and make the best decision that they can in the moment based on their experience, skills and knowledge. So it's going with your gut instincts and thinking about the person that you're supporting. And it's nice at the beginning, hearing in the introduction how some of you were saying about how lucky you are that the people that you're supporting have people around them that know them really well and have managed to keep them out of institutions and having really great PAs. That's so important when you're thinking about dynamic risk assessment. You're probably all doing this anyway. But the idea with the dynamic risk assessment is when something happens that you haven't planned, you respond to it in that moment. And you think about the benefit as well, because often the benefit outweighs the risk. But it's just a reminder that when things do go wrong, you probably have the knowledge and the skills to deal with it in that moment anyway. So this is a picture of something going really well at a festival, but sometimes things go wrong for us as well. So we've had to learn how to sort of react quickly in those situations. You can move to the next slide, please, Sally. I don't know the name of the person in the gold jacket, but this is a Gig Buddy lifting a member of the public onto their shoulders so that they get a better view of the gig. Now the look on this little boy's face is incredible, and I again could not have expected this to happen. They obviously did their own risk assessment and thought, I can lift this person onto my shoulders, I'm going to do it, and here they are enjoying the view. And isn't that a brilliant picture? That young person's face is lit up, and then I'm at the front doing thumbs up, so pleased. You can't really explain how great those moments are. So I think that's a lovely image to look at. So we're asking, when you're doing your risk assessment, are you empowering somebody that you're supporting and asking them, how do you feel? Does this feel safe, or are you pushing yourself a little bit? Victoria, in our role, we often have to push ourselves to try new things.
Oh, don't we all?
Can I ask you, do you know when something inside, how it feels, if it doesn't feel safe, or how it feels when it feels sort of liberating? Can you feel the difference physically?
I can tell when you don't feel comfortable doing it, but you just go, you have to push yourself to something that you don't feel comfortable with, even if it's scary or you're putting yourself at risk. But it's kind of like, it's like risk of like walking down a shop in a thunderstorm, or you go get struck by lightning or not. That's kind of the risk you take.
It's true, and I think it's worth talking to the person you're supporting about how they feel when they feel out of their comfort zone. They might get sweaty hands, or they might get a racing heart, or they might get that kind of acidy feeling in their throat. But lots of people can usually tune into their body, and it's good to have that conversation with the person you're supporting about how do you feel when you're in danger, because it's about helping somebody empower them to know when they're taking risks or not.
That is so important to me. Yeah. That absolutely, that's so important, isn't it? Helping people recognise their own feelings and what that means and how much they push themselves. Brilliant, yeah.
Oh, I've felt it before.
Yeah, and that's what the Song of Life is about, isn't it? At Paradigm, we talk about the roller coaster of ordinary life and how to be free. We need to be free to enjoy those high ride moments. You know, it's like
exactly. And sometimes it takes a lot of building up to the bigger things. Yeah. So you know, if we can go to the next slide, please, guys. We're nearly at the end of our slides. We've got a couple to go. This is one of my favourite slides. This is a photo of a gig buddy, and you can't see it because it's been cut off at the edge, but there's a quote, and it was posted, like I put this on Facebook at 3:48 a.m. at Glastonbury in the silent disco. It was a year when it rained a lot, so Maria here is covered in mud because she wasn't the only one to fall flat on her face in the mud. I also did. But one of the most amazing moments is she started to sort of spread it all up her arms and put it on her neck. She actually wanted to embrace that feeling of being covered in mud. And look how happy she is. Yeah. And that's at silent disco, 3:48 in the morning. And the quote says, I love the feeling of freedom. And I think actually freedom is different for everybody. So I wouldn't have thought covering yourself in mud would feel very freeing. Sounds pretty gross to me. But she loved it and she felt completely free in that moment. So it's just also bearing in mind that we don't know everybody else's, what everyone else's feeling of freedom is. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Oh, it's about to go to our top tips. So before we get to our top tips, just was going to say that most accidents happen when somebody says, I felt funny about that, or I sensed danger, but I felt the pressure to carry on. So it's also really important to remember that go with your gut instinct and say, actually, no, I know, that's probably too dangerous. Yeah. Okay, let's go to our top tip. So the first tip that we suggest is including people you're supporting in their own risk assessment. So, Victoria, you quite rightly said earlier that if people don't know they've had a risk assessment done about them, then they're not going to know about what the risks are and why you're doing it, are they? Yeah. You got anything you want to add to that?
Personally,
yes.
I would say I would be more happy. I don't know how others feel, but as a personal opinion, work managers should involve people that can function and understand what a risk assessment is to be involved in that risk assessment. Like I think I said previously, like I would have no clue. Only if I turn around and ask if I had a risk assessment. But then if I read that risk assessment, and I'd be like, why did you put a risk assessment for that when that's not true? Like, I don't think sometimes they need to explain properly why they had to put risk assessments in and why they had to do it for. Because, like, to me, like, it's like you have a risk assessment in case you fall over a treadmill, for instance.
And I totally agree. And I'm just still amazed that risk assessments are done to people without them. Yeah. I still go, really? without some sort of conversation. So even Gareth, when Mark's sitting, Gareth may not be able to communicate verbally, but people that know Gareth would be with Gareth, having that conversation, making these decisions, even if we know someone can't necessarily communicate back. It's done with a sense of real care and love and affection, isn't it? And it's just, and for the benefits of the activity, whatever it is. So
exactly, and all the more reason to be aware of how somebody's communicating in their non-verbal language.
Yeah.
Great. Let's go to our second top tip. So empower people to try new things and ask what challenges they would like to take on. It might not be as outrageous as you think and very possible. So that's just reminding us that actually 75% of people at this conference we ran just wanted to do very ordinary things and they could have been done next week. So start with things like that and you can build on it.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so asking your management to review the risk assessment or policy if you think it needs updating. You know the people you support the best. So that's remembering that actually, like Victoria's illustrated earlier, it might be that somebody becomes more independent through trying things, and then the risk becomes lower and you can withdraw your support, much like your support worker is not accompanying you on the train once you felt confident. So it's not just about leaving it as it is until something happens. It might be that you can withdraw your support and make them more independent, which is great. That's a brilliant outcome.
And it's like you say there as well, support workers are often the people that know the people they support the best, alongside family and friends. They're the ones that are there every day. And, managers are absolutely well-intentioned, but if support workers don't feel confident to say, oh, I'm not sure about this. And I think we've said in other webinars that managers and chief execs want to hear from support workers. They want to have questioning, thinking staff around that go, well, why do we do that? And question it and think about change. So I think it's great that's there as a tip. So, yeah, brilliant.
Thank you. Next one. So review a person's assessment every time something changes. Don't wait for an accident or incident to review your policy. That's just building on what we've just said, really, and remembering that as well as withdrawing support, if things are going well and someone's becoming more independent, things can change in somebody's life, such as their mental health or other health things that mean that you need to actually adapt it. Don't wait for something to go wrong. And finally, follow your gut instinct. It's usually right. We've got this book. I just wanted to end on reading this quote. It's called "Danger is Everywhere," and on the back it says, "I used to work as a swimming pool lifeguard until I realised what actually makes swimming pools dangerous is the water. So I got rid of all the water."
Very good.
What about my quote?
Oh, Victoria's got an amazing quote to finish on, which is the stay up late philosophy most of the time. So when things go wrong, Victoria, what do?
Fuck the plan.
We fuck the plan. Let's read out the last bit about how
Mark's clapping there, Victoria.
Yeah.
You didn't see Mark's clapping.
Like it.
Risks are everywhere. So, well, I was talking yesterday, and we were like, we were talking about risks, and I'm like, and Kate was just like, well, I was like, did you know every day you take a risk to like getting on the train? That could crash, that could be a bomb on there, could be anything on there, you could die, touching that even a plug, get electrocuted, like even doing anything, it's a risk. But afraid, so I think we always risk everything the minute we wake up in the morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, brilliant.
Exactly. So we're going to finish there, but thanks for letting us speak, and we welcome your questions.
Q&A time.
Thank you so much. Round of applause.
Thank you.
We'll get some questions. Yay! Well done, Victoria and Kate. Okay. Any questions from anybody? We've got Carla here still. Angela's on the phone. Mark's there.
It's not. Can I?
You go, Angela.
Hello? Yeah, it's not really much a question as a comment in that when we do our risk assessments, the first question we ask is what the benefit, the risk to the person. And I think that because hopefully then we're very person-centred in that the person benefits from what other people perceive as risk, but actually you and I make judgments about taking the risk for our benefit all the time, and therefore we want to try and encourage that with the people we support and the staff supporting them.
Absolutely.
Great.
And the challenge is how we really get that message out, isn't it, Angela? So people really know that it's okay to take a risk and do it, and come and chat to me if you want to talk about it. And
that's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trying and making sure that staff understand that if they take a risk and sometimes risks, something happens, then it's not the end of the world. People have learned and had a great experience out of that.
Yeah. And that's what you said at the start, Kate and Victoria, wasn't it? That you learn from things not quite going right. You learn and you adjust it for next time. Yeah.
We probably learn more from things not going right than we do when they go
exactly. It's true.
Perfectly.
It's true.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Can I just say something? I know you can't see me. First of all, thank you. It's a lot of food for thought. But we do our club night every month up in Skipton, and we have quite a few people who work with people for an organisation, and that is very much structured. We've got to go because the shift ends. Breaking into that is so hard.
Mm-hmm. So, go on, Kate.
No, you go.
No, I was going to say, anybody got any tips? That's all. I haven't got the answers. But yeah, so Kate.
We did a survey as people were leaving a learning disability club night to find out why they were leaving, and support workers often said, I don't want to leave, but I have to because I'm starting at 9 o'clock the next morning. And we encourage them to talk to their manager about, is there any way of being flexible? If somebody's out till 10 or 11 at night, they might not want their support to start first thing in the morning, because you work with them to adjust their hours and maybe start with support a bit later the next day, so they've got more of an option to go out. Because like you say, it's only once a month. We're not suggesting it every day.
Yeah, it's just it's breaking them barriers really, and they're saying, well, it's us, not you.
Yeah. Carla, I mean, if you know the organisations that are going, I don't know, just what do other people think? Could you send some information about Stay Up Late, a campaign or a film or a link, or is there a way of having a coffee morning where they talk about it? I know you exclusively inclusive, a beautiful, local, small, aren't you? Very stretched. And it's like how we get that message to those other providers, isn't it? Because, like I say, support workers want to be freed often, to be flexible. So I just don't know whether, some of the resources that have the films or whatever could be shared, or whether it has to be more direct than that. I don't know.
The one particular organisation does bring quite a few people to the disco, and everyone loves it. Maybe they've just got a new manager, so maybe we might have a fresh approach, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, it's hard, isn't it? But sometimes we just have to say something and say, just say to the manager, it's great if people come, but, it's a shame they leave so early.
Yeah.
Do you know about Stay Up Late and ideas for being flexible? So I suppose in organisations, we're sometimes scared of being seen as critical of other organisations.
Yeah.
But I think what we're doing is growing our voice, isn't it? Say, actually, this is people's lives, isn't it? And if we don't find a way of having that conversation, which I know you do up in Skipton, more than one, all the time. I know that, but it's how you have that extra one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Real challenge, though. Real challenge. We have it a lot at events. We suddenly see groups of people leaving, and yeah.
Get gig buddies to your town.
Oh, we're thinking it.
Yes, absolutely. Any other comments, questions?
No,
You're okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
It's a very great idea.
Yeah, good. Well, we have a webinar every month, so different things. So, and I'm just going to say then another massive thank you to Kate and Victoria. I love your relationship. I love the humour. I love the informality. I love the honesty. And I really like the challenge. So that's great. Absolutely brilliant. I've said already, it will be recorded. So we'll share it with hundreds of people across the country and really encourage them to use all of it or bits of it in their teams, just to get people really thinking. We'll share your resources with the movement. So your, what were they called? The Stay Up Late Guide. And we'll absolutely do that and send that out to people and put it on the online library. So a massive thank you. And just to say to others that are with us and those listening to the recording, that we had our first great get-together a couple of weeks ago, and it really was great. It was just amazing, the energy that brought, that people who hadn't felt able to contribute on Facebook or an email are now starting to do it. And, you know, we didn't call it a movement accidentally. We called it a movement because we know energy has to be created by people, and then it will move and then it will grow. And it's really exciting to see our first physical get-together having a positive impact a couple of weeks ago. So we are across or down, wherever we are, in Salisbury on the 13th of February, and there is more space, so if you let people know. The 7th of March is our next webinar, and at the moment it's called Just a Sister. So, and those of you that have seen the recordings, Sammy spoke with her personal assistant Kate at, I think it was the last webinar actually, and spoke a lot about Hazel. So, and Sammy's keen that Hazel does a webinar. So it's really about, as a family member, what are you looking for in your great support? So when you have a sister that you love to bits who has some health conditions that can be pretty scary at times, what can, you know, what would really help a sister free her sister up to live a good life, knowing there's great support around? So Hazel will be in conversation with me on March 7th. We've then got a great together in Coventry on the 12th of March, and we're up in Skipton, on the 19th of March. And we're coming the night before, so, you know, it'd be amazing if there was a disco. I bet there isn't. So Joe's dangerous on the dance floor, aren't you, Joe? So other than that, it's just a massive thanks again to Gig Buddies, Stay Up Late, to Victoria and to Kate. Thank you so much. And we will see you all soon. And we usually just finish off with a massive, just everybody wave to each other. Carla, you can't see us. Angela, you can't see us. But Angela, Carla, goodbye. We're all waving at you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Bye. 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 Bye.